and I wanted to kind of touch base to see what you thought of the game so far. See if you finished the game, if you liked it.
I think really smooth swinging mechanics. New York looks beautiful.
But I feel like the game mechanics aren't nearly as smooth as PS4 or even Miles Morales' game that he got.
So we already have less in number of gadgets, but you've also chosen to eliminate some of my favorite gadgets in favor of putting in new gadgets that are, to me, way less fun to use. I'll do that debate sometime if anybody wants to come on the podcast and do it. The Spider-Man games versus the Arkham games.
Yeah. Welcome to Backseat Directing.
Where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're reacting to Spider-Man to PS5.
3, 2, 1,
action. So we're gonna dive into Spider-Man 2 PS5 that came out, and we actually did a live stream to this. It was our first ever live stream, and we played for, 2 hours or so, and kind of went through the different gameplay and the elements that we liked and stuff, and kind of learned the game together on this stream. And since then, we haven't really talked about it at all, and that was back in October. So we're almost in December now. By the time this comes out, it will be December. So we're about a month, little over, of this game being out, and I wanted to kind of touch base to see what you thought of the game so far. See if you finished the game, if you liked it. If you have some complaints or if there's some really cool parts that you really want to praise. But before we do all that, I want to turn to the audience, say thank you for watching, but also I want to remind you guys, hit that subscribe button. You know, it's right there. It's right there, you know, and it only helps us out. If you like this video, we put a lot of time into these videos, so it'd be awesome if you could hit that subscribe and help the show out. So, Andrew, what do you think?
Overall, I think that it's a game. The game is a whole bunch of fun. You know, it's a blast to play, swinging around. You feel like Spider-Man. It has, I think, really smooth swinging mechanics. New York looks beautiful. That said, I do think there are lots of areas where this game fails us.
No, Andrew, I was hoping for a positive episode.
You were not.
Whoa.
This was it's a fun game. It's a good time.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for like perfect mechanics, no bugs and glitches, great dialogue, and impeccable story, I would say go to another game. Go to Red Dead Redemption 2. Go to Ghost of Tsushima. Go to The Last of Us Part 2. Like,
go to the original PS4.
Spider-Man PS4.
Go to Miles Morales.
This game falls drastically short of Spider-Man PS4 to me. Even when you look at them side by side, and yes, this game, visually looks a bit better. What it loses in terms of quality of story, dialogue, and voice acting, I think, does not bridge the gap.
Well, even all of that, like I feel like I could overlook that stuff a little bit, you know, because I'm there to play the game. But I feel like the game mechanics aren't nearly as smooth as PS4 or even Miles Morales' game that he got. I don't know. I feel like I've run into a lot of glitches while swinging. I don't think it's as smooth as it used to be. I feel like I run into buildings and he gets attached to the building, or when I hit the L2 and R2 button to zing to a spot, like I don't go to the spot that I'm wanting to go to, or those options of that little target don't show up nearly as often as they used to.
And before you mention in the comments, he has checked to make sure that swing assist is on.
Yes. I haven't changed any of the settings. You know, they're all the same as what they were in the other two games, but for whatever reason, the swinging is just not as smooth. I also think the fighting style is a little bit more of a mess. You know, there's a lot more going on. You have things flying right above you, people right behind you, and then you have like those really annoying guys who are like trying to jump in from little nest to nest.
The hunters.
You know? Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a disappointment to me, the lack of additional finishers in this game, because the finishers are the same finishers that Miles and Peter had in the last two games.
They're a little different.
There's some new ones, especially when it comes to like the spoilers for the game, obviously, but especially when it comes to like the other suits, like the symbiote suit, like you have new finishers for the symbiote suit, but like the base suits for them, they're doing mostly the same finishers from the previous games. Like when I play like the new God of War or the new like Arkham games, like there was always like a bunch of new takedowns
Yeah.
that were very different.
Yeah, and then when you go from PS4 to Miles Morales, there's like the Venom Strike, so we got to see a different there's a different power that we got to play with.
It was cool that they gave Peter the Iron Spider legs to like compensate for that difference, because like Miles has those like special attacks, but they also completely had to forego the like big finishing moves from the first game, where in the very first Spider-Man PS4 game you had like that attack where you jump in the air and shoot webs all around you in a circle and do like a mass takedown at a bunch of enemies, and there was a whole variety of those. And like to me, unlocking some of those with the new suits was like one of the joys of the game. Like the biggest joys of the first Spider-Man PS4 game for me in terms of like unlocking was the suits and those finishers that came with them. So like you would get a new finisher and be like, oh, I want to try this out and see how this applies and see if it's more effective. And like you had the spider bug one where the little spider buddy would come up and zap and tase a bunch of enemies. Like you had
Also the gadgets too.
Unrelenting Fury. Like, yeah, the gadgets were better in the first game also. They scaled down on the gadgets and they scaled down on stealth entirely, which stealth as Spider-Man is so cool. Wall crawling, ceiling crawling, doing takedowns. Like,
There's a lot of parts too where stealth could have been added pretty easily, like when we're going through Craven's little mansion or wherever, and we find out he has a tiger there as like his bodyguard or whatever. We're there as Peter. And not only are we Peter, we're Peter who can't run. So we're stuck walking through this building as Peter Parker when we could be Spider-Man crawling on the ceilings, shooting from shadow to shadow.
I was just thinking the whole time, thank goodness, because I accidentally ordered Spider-Man 2 and I really wanted to get Waiter 2.
Yeah. It was I was so frustrated because I don't play video games for very long stretches of time at once. Like I have like an hour to play or something, like 40 minutes even. And I get down and I go to a mission, one of the main story missions, and for 30 minutes of that mission, I'm either MJ or I'm Peter Parker.
That's
And
another,
I
yeah.
just want to be Spider-Man. I'm here to be Spider-Man. When I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima, like I'm not one of the servants. Like
Yeah.
I'm the samurai.
Yeah, that's our big one of our other big complaints with it that you and me have already talked about, but it's like I don't want to spend such a large portion of the game walking around as Miles like flirting with Haley, or walking around as MJ like crawling in the shadows, being a waiter as Peter Parker. Like we have on the other end of that, we're superhumans. Like let us play as the superhuman the vast majority of the game, and then people complained about the puzzles in the first game, and they're like, all right, let's double down on the puzzles.
They took them out for Miles Morales, and I love that game, and I think that's partially why I would like a shorter game over having a longer game with those puzzles.
The puzzles just
So
they just make it longer.
Them out, please. I don't like them.
Yeah, there's a lot with this
They
game.
slow your momentum down.
They put in new kinds of puzzles and more puzzles, and like, so I think the main two complaints for me with the last game would have been the times I had to play as a regular human and the puzzles, which I don't hate the puzzles. I just don't want like so many puzzles.
Yeah.
It's like, 2 or 3 times throughout the game is enough for me.
I'm literally at home and I'm on the couch watching TV, watching a movie, or maybe I'm scrolling through social media or editing the podcast, and I'm thinking, oh, I want to play Spider-Man. And then I immediately think, well, if I click on a mission, am I going to be doing a puzzle or playing as a normal human being? Probably. You know what? I'm going to stick to my movie. I'm going to stick to doing something different.
Yeah. When we complain about the puzzles, I can already hear a comment rolling in that's like, if you're stupid, just say so. If you can't do puzzles,
it's not that I can't do them.
They're not even complicated. The ones where you like take you click on the thing and it bursts like the little atoms or whatever. It's just like they're just tedious.
They're just boring. It's literally just a filler to fill time. And I don't want that. I would rather have another fight with just a random person, like
the Spider-Man friendly neighborhood Spider-Man app help missions were like could have been so much more exciting. They could have been interactions with like members of Spider-Man's rogues gallery, like Shockers in the first game. Now they're all being killed by Kraven, but instead they're just like boring, but also deeply emotional at the same time. It's like hunting down a grandpa, which is boring, but then there's like they're making you cry also. Like, yeah, like the voice acting and the writing is interesting for that part, but like, why am I like swinging over to this part of the park and scanning a hat? Like, we could be doing something so much more exciting in that time.
Yeah, I feel like we're talking a lot of negatives about this, but at the same time, I see it more as like constructive criticism, because I love the games, like this being the third game in their series. Like if they make a fourth one, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play it.
Me too.
But if we voice our opinions, like maybe we could be heard and we can get a better product from it,
Yeah, I think if enough of us give feedback, then I feel like they're willing. So two big things, improvements in this game. While we're trying to get towards a positive trend, fans I think really wanted the web launcher, the web slingshot, and fans really wanted the zip line, like the web line, and the web line lends a lot to stealth. Like the thing is, the game doesn't encourage stealth, but it allows you to choose it on your own. So I used the web lines a lot because I would have like a whole network of like a spider web above them, just shooting new ones
Right.
to get my stealth takedowns. Because I really like stealth gameplay, like especially in Arkham games. But that was a huge addition where they listened to fans and added that. And the slingshot too. The slingshot, the gliding, and the web lines are three amazing additions to this game. You could slingshot into like web wing gliding, and it was just the smoothest, most awesome experience. I glided literally everywhere I ever went in this game.
How did you like switching back and forth between Miles and Peter?
I'm a big like Peter Parker fan. So
Racist. You just don't like black people? Is that it?
No, I do like Miles. I just feel like they write him really corny in this. Like if Miles in the games was exactly like Miles in Into the Spider-Verse, then he would be my favorite character. Like that version is like contention for my favorite Spider-Man of all time. He's so phenomenal. Like him and Yuri in Spider-Man PS4 are my two favorite Spider-Man representations. And I just feel like this Miles that we get in the game is corny and cheesy and some of the worst dialogue in the games. Like the dialogue's far inferior in Spider-Man 2 to like the previous games. But like he's super cheesy. He's like NPC Miles on like the TikTok live guy. Like, turn up the music, turn up the like. That's what he sounds like to me. It's too corny. The dialogue they write for him is like too far gone. I don't know if any voice actor could like repair it for him.
I definitely like when video games just have you stick to the character that you're there to play with. Like I really liked Yuri in the first PS4 game, and I really liked Miles in his video game, but I don't really like switching. Even if their mechanics are pretty similar, I just don't like that dynamic as much as the other games. It's not that big of an issue if they're in their suit and we're actually playing as Spider-Man, but I kind of like just being the main character of whoever's story this is.
I don't hate the switching because I think it can be a good story element, like a good way to drive the story and have the two support each other. For example, I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is really seamless and fun when it comes to switching characters. They have three main characters you play as, and it's like it's Franklin, Michael, and Trevor, and you switch between the three of them, and it really like brings the story together because especially between Trevor and Michael, there's like a long history between them, and you get like a different perspective on like who wronged who in what way and things like that. So that's like a really good element. Like in this story, you have two perspectives because you have Peter spiraling and Miles like losing his mentor. So like it's cool to get those two different perspectives and it adds an element to the story. I just think that it can also give you like main character confusion. Like, you're like,
Yeah, like as
who
soon
am
as
I
I'm feeling attached to one of them,
you
I
switch.
switch, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh dang it! Like I was just getting momentum,
Yeah.
like one in the game, but then two also just like my emotional connection to the character, like it's split right now, and it's hard to fall in love
Yeah.
for me, but I really don't like the gadget switch that they made too.
Let's talk about the mechanics for a little bit
Yeah,
here. The
let's
mechanics, I
go
think,
into that.
I think the mechanics have been a downgrade.
Keep going.
So I think that in the first game, we had a vast improvement, first of all, with those finishers I mentioned, but also the main thing is just like with these gadgets, like they chose to totally change the gadgets. And in my opinion, when you have a sequel to a game, you should always be giving us more. You shouldn't be changing out
Improve upon it.
or giving us less. You should be giving us the same stuff plus more. So in the last game, we had like 6 to 8 gadgets. And in this game, we only have 4 slots. So we already have less in number of gadgets, but you've also chosen to eliminate some of my favorite gadgets in favor of putting in new gadgets that are, to me, way less fun to use. Like my 2 favorite things in the last game was web bombing enemies, when especially like when you come upon them and they're like inside like a jewelry store robbing it, and you just they all stick to the walls.
Right.
And then impact webbing people, which was so satisfying because it hit with like this intense thud and instantly took out an enemy and pinned them to the wall. And the satisfaction of doing that was one of my favorite parts of the Spider-Man PS4. And they chose to eliminate both of those two of my favorite gadgets on top of eliminating like the big finishing moves that I like.
I don't like the R1, R2, or sorry, R1, L1, and then you press the corresponding button to the gadget. I feel like when I'm doing that, I'm just kind of like randomly pressing one in the moment to hope that it gets these bad guys off my back. I feel like in the other two games, it was more intentional and you had more options. You know, if you wanted to switch, you just hold the button, you select which gadget you want. It kind of freezes everything, slows everything down. You can pick which gadget, and then boom, you're rocking. Maybe you have 10 shots of that gadget, you know?
I don't really have beef with that mechanic. I think it's cool because it's more seamless. It lets you just like instantly fire whichever gadget you're picking from the wheel. But I do have a problem with it because it lends to them only having four because of the four
Yeah.
buttons. But
It
they
just
could,
feels like less intentional. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I'm just pressing a random one, you know, to hopefully get out of this scenario and win.
also, like you said in the last one, we had more of the individual gadgets. Like we had more options, but then also when you would use an impact web, you might have like four. And now in everything, the concussion burst, you only have like three of everything. So you're more, and
Or if you're not that far in the story yet, you only have two.
they've commented on this in an interview with IGN saying that like they wanted the game to be like not as much of a crutch with the gadgets. So maybe that's why they took the finishers out too. But I think they felt like the first game was too easy, even on the hardest difficulty. So they tried to remove some of that stuff that made it like,
Well, I did play this game on the hardest difficulty. It's not possible for me, anyways. I got wrecked.
I played it on the hardest difficulty at the end, and it was not that much harder because when you have everything unlocked, you're so much stronger.
Yeah.
When your skill tree is fully leveled up and you have all the gadgets, the hardest difficulty is like not that threatening because you can like mow down hordes of enemies just like firing off all your gadgets and your special moves.
Yeah, from where I was in the beginning, I was probably at like 15%. Like I couldn't get anything done.
I just think that, yeah, it's a way harder in the beginning. Like there's just like one Mysterium that's like you have to wait till the end of the game to do, at least for me. But I think that they just made so many changes where we got less instead of more. It's cool that you gave us like these special moves with like the Iron Spider things and Miles's Venom power and the symbiote suit. But on top of that, I still want to have like my big finishing move because I could change that out throughout the game. There was like 20 of them in Spider-Man PS4. It was disappointing to me that they didn't have it in Miles Morales already. I thought it was going to be back, but like I could change that out at any time, and that added so much more diversity to how I would approach fights. Is like waiting for that finishing move to charge up, and it could be one of any 20 things depending on how I wanted to play the game. I like that versatility option.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to. My biggest complaint, and we've already talked about it a little bit as well, is just being a regular person. You know, and too much, and not only being a regular person, but that regular person basically having powers of their own.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
know,
It's a little bit of a misnomer to call MJ Watson a normal person in this game when she's literally like
She's
Captain
super
America
man.
level infiltration and
Like,
fighting.
This is even a little too far from where
Dude,
it
there's
like all starts. This one I started this mission and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I texted you right away. And I was like,
Yeah, I
"This
remember
is
that.
ridiculous." Oh, got another ad there. But yeah, once that pulls back up, I'll bring it up. But I texted you and I was like, "This is too much, man. Like, she just took an arrow to the chest."
For all
Like,
intents and purposes, she might as well be Captain America in the opening of Winter Soldier, like with her stealth and takedown abilities in this zoo scene. She's literally destroying these trained mercenaries who are not only trained but also ruthless, like merciless. And they cannot handle MJ Watson because of a month of training with Silver Sable.
yeah.
Also, did she spend their whole vacation like learning to fight and learning that other language?
I
Did
guess
they did they
bro. Look
vacation?
how far back she just kicked that guy. Like, and like that's not even that bad. It's when she gets the arrow.
And this guy she just dodged an arrow from a crossbow and then beat his ass.
Yeah. And it gets worse too. Like once she gets inside here, like it's a lot, man. You know, like it's crazy.
This does feel a lot like The Last of Us.
It does, which is cool. But like, I'm not here to play The Last of Us. I'm here to play as Spider-Man. If I wanted to play The Last of Us, I'd literally just go play The Last of Us. You know,
Yeah.
like you're not going to do it better than that in the middle of another
It's
game.
basically a mini game within the Spider-Man game.
Yeah. It's too much.
I get that MJ is a big character, but that doesn't mean we have to play as her.
Right.
Like we didn't play as Aunt May in the last game.
That's coming up though. I bet.
Flashbacks will be playing as Aunt May.
So, what did you think of this game overall? Did you finish it? Did you like it? Did you?
Oh, I 100%ed it.
Was it a chore for you to get through, or did you have fun? Did you enjoy it all?
It wasn't a chore at all, but I had like some steady complaints throughout about some of the bugs and glitches. Like the bike is really hard to ride in the bike parts of the game. Like especially when you have to do it fast.
Is there more?
Yes.
Oh no.
Multiple.
Oh no.
But
I'm like 30% through the game.
So I'm 100% like all the side missions, every little thing's done, the photograph stuff, the like
You've done it all.
everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything. So we cleared out all the boroughs to 100%. And me and my fiance play this game together, so it's a good way to pass the time. It's good like quality bonding time for us. We chit chat while we play. We joke and laugh about like the corny dialogue, or we talk about how cool certain stuff is. So I wouldn't say it was a chore to me at all. I enjoyed it because of those outside factors so much. Like it was such a good time, and I'll probably eventually even play the game again. But like those bike missions, the handling is terrible on the bike, and then just a lot of glitches throughout. Like NPC people floating in the air, or like half underground, or like
Remember when we
people
did our
disappearing.
live
Yeah,
and we were stuck on that ship?
yeah, that was a glitch.
the opening
that was
missions?
a big glitch
We literally couldn't find the last guy to kill, and we were there for 10 minutes wandering around.
until we had to reset the game.
Yeah.
And the game gets really, for lack of a better term, buggy, which is a pun I've already made on our TikTok.
Which, hey, it happens, you know? I mean, it's a big game. It's a big release. A lot of people are playing it all at once. Probably very few people are actually buying a disc version of the game, you know? So it's a lot different than it used to be.
But it shouldn't have.
It's frustrating.
It's not online though, so it shouldn't have servers. Like that shouldn't even hurt the game if other people are playing it at once. You know, it's just like, I don't know. I think it just needs patches, which like should have been done by now. It's been out for over a month. I don't know. I have a lot of nitpicks, and I think the story can be kind of like corny and go like all over the place in different directions. Like I don't want to spoil anything for you towards the end of the game, but like the boss fights are super annoying. Every boss is like, just give me like their health bar. Why do I have to fight the bosses through like 5 health bars? They like trick me into thinking that I won every boss fight when I haven't. But there's a lot of positives to the game too. It's just annoyed me at a lot of points at the same time.
Yeah.
It's fun to be Spider-Man. It's fun to live as Spider-Man in the game. And like, I love that they expanded the map. I love that they added new mechanics. The gliding is like the smoothest, most fun thing in the world. It's so cool. What about you? I know you said 30%, but what do you think so far?
I feel like my fear of being MJ or Peter or doing a puzzle kind of outweighs being Spider-Man. And I think part of that is my fault, because right before this game released, I started replaying PS4. So I got more than halfway through that. So I got to play Spider-Man a ton, and I already don't play video games very often. So I feel like
You have Spider-Man fatigue.
it was just enough frustrating parts to stop my momentum.
I wonder how many people are quitting playing the game, because I haven't heard too many people talking about it. I mean, other than like when it very first came out, people talking about the swinging mechanics. Like the opening to the game is great. The Sandman opening is really cool. It's big and epic in scale.
Yeah.
They always open strong in these games, all 3 of them. But I think I would imagine quite a few people have fallen off because no one's talking about this game as like game of the year material. You know what I mean?
And if they are, it was a month ago.
Yeah.
Like as it first came out or before it came out, and it's all these reviewers saying like, oh, game of the year, this is the best execution of the power of the PS5, you know? But I really haven't heard much of this game since, and that's why I wanted to jump on this episode and chat about it with you and see what you thought, you know, and see if you were having the same thoughts as I was having.
Dude, when you were like complaining about playing as MJ so much, like I got that text message and I was like, yes, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree with all
like that one mission that we were just watching, like you're the MJ for a good 20-30 minutes, and then it goes into Peter, or it goes into Spider-Man, he gets hurt, and then you're just at a cutscene. And it's like, man, like I literally only had an hour to play, and I didn't even get to play.
Yeah, and I want it like firmly noted that like Ellie is one of my favorite fictional characters of all time, and playing as Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2, which Last of Us Part 2 is probably my favorite video game of all time. So like playing as MJ, like I'll play as anybody. I don't care like that she's a woman or that she doesn't have powers. Like it's annoying in this game specifically that she doesn't have powers, but it could still be fun and entertaining even without the powers. It's just like not done super well, and it's not the time for it in this game. And like my fiance too, who is very like woman power, hates playing as MJ. And like I think it's probably like a universal complaint about this
Yeah,
about this game.
it's just expectations versus like reality, you know, like you're going in expecting to play a superhero and now you're just playing as a regular
It's like
person.
we
Even the Peter Parker scenes, like I don't want to be Peter Parker.
we could be another character just with superpowers. We could be Black Cat or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something
Even that, I'd rather just be Spider-Man. Like
fair, but
like let me be
but
like
that would be better than being an
it's
unpowered
well,
MJ.
it's like going into like the Blade movie that's supposed to be coming out.
Maybe.
You know, like they had to scrap the whole thing because Blade ended up getting pushed back to being like the fourth main character. Like how disappointed would you have been if you went to the theaters and watched Blade and he was the fourth main character
In a movie called
and
Blade.
it's his movie, it's
Yeah.
him on the title. Like wouldn't you be disappointed?
I'd be upset.
I'd be so upset because you're being sold one thing and then you're getting something else. And I feel like that's what's happening with this video game, which is really annoying because Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. I love the other two games and I want to love this game just as much. And I just am not excited to play it as much as I was hoping.
I think I can say that this game cements the Arkham trilogy as being a better trilogy of games than the Spider-Man trilogy.
I can't comment on that since I haven't played all of those games, but I I don't know. Was there an entry of those games that was much lower than the
Nope.
other ones?
Nope, they literally it's up and up and up.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
all fantastic, dude.
there you have it. I'm not here to argue with you about it.
I'll do that debate sometime if anybody wants to come on the podcast and do it. The Spider-Man games versus the Arkham games.
Yeah. If I could play video games fast enough, I could join. Maybe in like 10 years or so. 5 years, maybe we can.
5 years time, you'll finish
do that.
Spider-Man 2.
Think we'll still be doing the podcast in 5 years?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But
We'll have our own studio by then.
I'd be really curious what everyone else has to say about this. Like, are we just haters?
Probably.
Don't like,
Probably.
you know, whatever. Be mean to us in the comments if that's how you feel. But like, just let us know. Do you agree with us? Do you agree with some of the complaints? Do you think Spider-Man 2 is Game of the Year material? Like, tell us what you thought of the game. Do you have other critiques we didn't say? I'd be genuinely curious to know what everyone else thinks of Spider-Man 2 because we're just kind of in our bubble right now, and I'm not seeing a lot on the internet about it, like we said.
Yeah, me neither. So let us know in the comments what you think. Hit that subscribe button. We post new episodes every Monday and Thursday, and we're always coming up with new ways to entertain. We have a few different types of episodes coming out. Again, we're working on a short film that should be coming out at the beginning of next year sometime. We also did a D&D campaign a few months. Probably it came out November, October. So that was pretty recent. So check that out as well. Thanks so much for watching, and
That's a wrap.